Hello there, and welcome to the Transformation for Success Television Network. And I'm pleased today that we're on the Financial Wellness Channel. And I'm pleased to welcome my guest, Mr. Vladimir Hristov, who is from Bulgaria via Canada. And we're going to explore today preserving my community, how to find a community, but more importantly, we're going to explore his transformational journey and how that translates to financial wellness and health. And we're talking about financial wellness from a different perspective. So I want to welcome Vladimir Hristov, who is an author, who is an entrepreneur, and absolutely a great human being that I had the opportunity to meet some weeks ago, maybe a few months ago. So hi there and welcome. It is so good to have you on the show today. I really enjoyed meeting you, and I have to tell the audience, when I first met you, and being very honest, we were attending, and I give credit to Joel Bauer, we were attending his seminar, one of his seminars, the great mastermind himself, and this is where I met Vladimir, and Vladimir is sitting next to me, and I thought, what is this man doing? Because he was like copiously writing notes, and he was focused, and he never spoke. I was trying to say a little hello, but he was so intensely involved with what Mr. Bauer was saying. So I began to take notes. I said, I guess I better take note. So absolutely, it was a pleasure to get to know you and to realize that all of that note-taking that you were doing has made a tremendous impact on the success that you're enjoying today. But let us start from the beginning, because I know that you were born in Bulgaria, which is the Soviet bloc, the Eastern European countries. And what was it like, Vladimir, growing up in Bulgaria?
At that time, it was kind of very strict from the government, so they didn't allow us to speak freely like you do people here. The thing is that they control everything, and they think that if they control your life and give you food on the table and other things which you need as a human being, they have the right to tell you what to do. Unfortunately, these things were not good, and thank God it's over. So it was a challenge, but at the same time, that's where the dream comes true for later on, is that I've seen that people were communicating much easier. I remember when my mother was sending for bread or for salt to the neighbor, where we were living in the same condo, there was no problem. I was knocking the door, ringing the bell, say, hey, mommy, send me for salt or extra bread. And then she smiles and gives me. Now this thing is kind of dissipating, unfortunately.
Right. Wow. So were you the only child in the family, or there were other brothers and sisters?
I have a brother who is still living there. I met him this summer, 9 years after.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I've seen myself changed, coming into different culture.
I could imagine. Now, did you went to an English language school?
Absolutely,
in Bulgaria,
yes.
So that gave you the capability of being able to speak English. So did you run away to join the cruise lines?
Do you know, I'm going to give you a paradox here. Nevertheless, I had the confidence that I speak English. When I joined Celebrity Cruise Line first time, I had the feeling I forgot everything.
Wow.
And by the fact that I have so many American tourists, specifically American, because celebrities serving more American, they're Canadians, British, not so many, it makes me start to speak again.
Okay.
Because that knowledge, if you're not using it, then it's forgotten.
Right.
It's forgotten.
Right.
I really actually empower my English on Celebrity Cruise Line, because specifically the guest was saying, hey, where are you coming from? Speak about you. If you don't speak, you don't get tipped.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
You have to speak, you have to be yourself, and then they tip you so easily. But if you shut down and say, oh, I don't know, then you cannot make the contact.
So you really learned to be a conversationalist, and so to speak.
Otherwise, your pocket is empty.
Okay, so you left Celebrity Cruises, and then where did you go from there? Because I know you changed your career path, and you started working in restaurants?
No, I came back to Bulgaria, and again in the hotels with really a dream to become a manager there, hotel manager, and I did.
Oh, okay.
And I did, thanks to a nice woman like you, beautiful woman. She saw me that I have potential, especially with this background already in celebrity cruise line.
Right, right.
Because that's the thing where it's missing. You cannot have it if you don't do it yourself. You don't go to the field.
Right.
And that's where the international experience is. One thing to serve customers in Bulgaria, it's another stuff in different countries.
Right.
And there I become a manager where I can have more responsibilities, respond to the owner of the hotel, and going marketing, going very deep in the process, because that's.
Now, did you have to manage staff while you were?
Yes, you have to manage staff, and that's what it's more difficult than to manage customers. Believe me, I've read some billionaire kind of statement that your employees are kind of more important to you to manage them properly, because they are representing you and they're going to attract the proper customers, the proper people.
Right. What do you think? Do you think that was one of your more challenging experiences?
Yes.
Was learning how to manage people?
Yes, because sometimes you made mistakes and they can stab you back in the future.
Right. So what do you think was your greatest lesson that you learned from that experience?
You have to accept people as they are. You should stay away from intrigues. And if you can settle down, kind of finding the way not to make a side, which is to be neutral, that's the most difficult part. It's really.
I can imagine so.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be on his side or her side, but that's not my job. My job is to kind of make the peace between people, and they see as a betrayal when you go to speak with another person.
Absolutely.
But it's not the idea. The idea is to settle down because you want everybody to be happy.
Right. So why did you leave that job?
Because I understood that the economic situation is becoming worse, unfortunately. And specifically with my spouse at that time, we said for our child, George, we need more opportunities, more stability. It doesn't mean that we hate our country, but it means that we're not secure.
Right.
And we have the feeling that this intelligence, which we used to have during the communist time, is washing away very easily. And that people were thinking, oh, democracy is coming, I can do whatever I want. No, you have to be the same responsible guy.
Right.
Democracy is earned, is not given.
Right.
And then that's why we prefer to go in Canada, where there's a stability, there's a law and order. I mean, the corruption is minimum, and that's what attracts us, because.
Let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
Did you do research? Now, I'm going to back up even earlier than that. When you left the Celebrity Cruise Line and went back to Bulgaria, did people think you had lost your mind coming back?
Yes.
I mean, you left the situation and then you go back to the situation. But it sometimes, I guess what I'm learning in our experience is sometimes we have to go back in order to go forward.
Exactly.
So did you, and you met your wife in Bulgaria, so maybe that's why you had to go back.
Yes. By the way, yes, exactly when I came back. And then I had a situation, I met her and I didn't expect, because with such a job, being a celebrity cruise line, and I've seen a lot of my my colleagues, they're waiters, they didn't have stable families, a lot of divorces. So it shows that the money is not everything.
Right, absolutely.
And she told me up front, hey, if you go again, I'm divorcing you. She, up front, the first day.
Okay, so you knew where she stood. You knew where she stood.
I like that, because rather than, okay, no problem, honey, go away, and then you have surprises.
Absolutely.
You have surprises.
So now back to Canada. So you go from Bulgaria to Canada, which is a stretch for me.
Yes.
I mean, because most people will migrate to New York or a major city, Chicago, Detroit, New York, I should say. So you decided on Canada, the country, another country. Now you're leaving one culture in Bulgaria, which has been under a very severe sort of domination, to Canada. But did you research other countries? Did you research the United States and think, I don't want to go there, and Canada? So so you guys actually did research on where you wanted to live.
Yes, and if the United States government has this program here, probably I'll choose the United States, because here there's a green card process, which is very they say randomly, but I don't know how they pick up the people. I tried several times, when say 7 to 10 times. However, when I try to with Canadian, then they have a procedure, specific procedure, and you have to go to English test. So you cannot just go and non-speaking English. You have to prove your professional background. So they don't need anybody. They need specifically people with specific jobs. So it was kind of more easier following the federal skilled worker program. And finally, after the second attempt, the first didn't go through well. They returned the documents. I remember my wife was crying. She wanted to go, and they returned the documents because of some mistakes. We right away advanced the second time, and very quickly we came to Canada exactly the eve before the Olympic Games in Vancouver.
Wow.
It's what exactly January 30th, 2010.
Oh my goodness.
The next day was opening the Vancouver Olympic in 2010, yeah.
What an incredible story.
Olympic experience.
I mean, what an incredible time to be getting there.
Yeah.
You know, because I was intrigued, you know, knowing your background is, and you and your wife is why you chose, you know, Canada. So now you get to Canada and you're navigating around. So how did you come into, you know, what you're doing, somewhat what you're doing now?
It's the life makes me do it, plus my background and all this belief that I have to contribute, I have to serve more. And if you want to serve more, you have to take more kind of challenges and many other issues between people. So having the hotel manager experience and Celebrity Cruise Line, so it's a customer service and managing, it's kind of put me through to something more quickly achievable, because let's say to be a lawyer you need 7 years, to be a doctor again 10, 20 years. I spoke with doctors, really it's a real commitment. 15 years you have lawyer, 7+.
Right.
So I said, let me do something which could be very easily managed, and believe me, the property management was more attractive. Plus, being in a real estate market, which Vancouver is, and keeping the prices makes you more challenges to know and understand what to do. It's not like back in Bulgaria where you don't have such a system. Here they have a system, and that's the thinking about the humanity.
Right. Tell me, do you feel that what you learned, you know, with Celebrity Cruises and hotel management prepared you for this path into property management?
Yes, exactly. It is very interesting because I was taking it that, okay, I'm going to forget, I'm going to do something else, but it's kind of the destiny is putting you into the rails and your spirit is guiding you. I didn't expect it, but my wife supported me. First I want to drop it, because they say, oh, you have to prove us that you know English. I said, are you kidding? I speak better than most locals who are coming with less, or immigrants like me who are coming with less background. And finally they said, no, it's a career. And she kind of gave me this support. That's why it's very important you have somebody to...
Now, did you have to go to school in Canada to get certified to be a property man?
Yeah, it's a school, but it's online school. Okay. After you prove your English proficiency or during the discourse, and then you go to a test. And then every 2 years you have to renew this license, which means you have to go to upgrade your knowledge. And it's in front of a lawyer, which is... They know most of the stuff, the legality. You're kind of David against Goliath there. Yeah, because they really, it's big. They can take something for the sentence. You know, when you play with the words,
I don't know.
I understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
You look like a child there. Let's put it that way. And every 2 years you have to prove yourself.
Okay.
Plus you are liable for what you have written specifically, because a British-oriented system more or less inherited, and it's a British law, so you have to be careful what emails you're sending, to whom you're sending, because they can pull it out very easily and go to a judge and sue you anytime. You cannot... You have to be really professional, even when you're angry, and if you want to say something really, and it happens to me, you
have to watch it. You have to
watch your emotions.
Right, and how you craft your words.
Exactly, because they can pull it out and be against you very easily, very easily.
You know, I'm wondering, you know, and this is bringing up a subject, will we see something like this ever happen in America? Because even now, we have things that are happening in terms of communication and how we communicate. I just bring this up as an aside, but, you know, preserving your community, which sort of gets us into that arena of preserving our community, how we interact and how we communicate with people. One of the things that I was intrigued about was the whole concept of property management. Because when I first met you and you said you were a property, you know, in property management, I had the concept of you're like a rental agent, you know, where you're managing all these properties and people who are living in the properties, but that's not the concept of property management. So would you explain to my viewers the concept of property management as you have defined it?
Yes, I define it as a doctor, as an agent. Mostly as an agent, people think that we have authority. The sad thing is it's different than United States and in Toronto. In British Columbia, it's a parent authority, which means that you have to show that you have authority, but you don't. And this is the thing, the societal element, because if you care, as we do care, Dr. Young, you want to help these people, but we're not some of them educated, or they say, oh, we pay you, we're expecting from you to do the problem. Then you back up and say, I'm sorry, I give you the information, I give you the suggestion. To my knowledge, I'm not complete expert like a plumber, lawyer, police officer, judge, everything at once, but I can give you this information or to a specialist which can help you. But you as an owner, as a emotional person, as a proud person, you have to find really the solution. There is no difference between living in the community and living in your own house. However, people are thinking that living in a community, they can pay someone else to take about any problem, plus they want a deal. Oh, let's make a deal. Let's give us cheap, but we don't want to pay you a lot. It doesn't work that way. If you want to drive Mercedes, it's one price. If you want to drive some different car, cheap, it's a different price. So you depends what you want, because I can give you a bill. I can give you specialist experts right away. But the moment you say, oh, it's too much money, what I have to do you want to protect your home? It's work, but it's worth it. It's really important people to understand that building a community, great neighborhood, it takes time. It takes education, it takes persistence, and you need someone, whether like me or somebody else, to transfer this knowledge, at least to be prepared before you choose it, because when you get inside, it's too late. Yeah.
One of the things that I did learn about what you do in looking at communities, I had the impression and didn't know, had I known some of the information you shared sometime when we first met, about when you're choosing a community to go in to live in a community, and it's like you are choosing like a marital partner. You're choosing someone, you're choosing the whole neighborhood as opposed to just your house. So it's more than just picking a house that may appeal to you in a community, but it's the whole community at large. Who are the people in there? What do they do? What are the values of the community? Because and I hate to go on and on, but what I see about this, say for instance, you're going into a community and the streets aren't kept up, the yards aren't kept up, but you're a person, your value system is, I'm neat, I like a nice yard, but you're in a community where that's not happening. Am I pretty much on track?
Yes,
with
absolutely.
What we talk about preserving my community, or thinking in terms of when we go into a community? One other aspect, would you explain, because this was something that I think is important for the viewers to know about. We do know there's a plethora of apartments and retirement villages and gated communities that are growing. It's almost in California, I know, and I'm not sure about Canada. Maybe you research Canada to see is there growth.
They're growing.
And living in the community that I'm living in, I feel like I should have asked some questions. One, about the repairs, about the association fees. How are they increased? Are they increased normal, just annually, regularly every year I didn't ask those questions because I didn't know how to ask those questions. What kind of challenges has the community has in the past? What's the future? What does the future portend for this community? Are they going to be building new roads? Are they going to be, adding things that's going to impact my financial well-being?
Absolutely, yes.
Is that?
Actually, yes, I incorporated 5 beneficiaries there, which can cost you easily $200,000. Just like that, if you don't know what to do. Let's say the first thing you write, you have to walk the whole community first, but people are kind of assuming it's a nice view, let's buy it, I don't have time. I had a situation now, a country woman came, she's a neighbor where I'm living in the condo, which is different than townhomes, and she was feeling bad because they bought a house, because they had this big dream, and then they didn't smell it properly. And after a while, it picks up a very bad odor, and they have to sell the house. And she was not shattered that they lost money, but she was shattered because she broke the dream of her husband. That's what she said.
Oh, wow.
So you see, when you're in a rush, you get caught, you made a mistake. So only this is $10,000 to $50,000 mistake. The second one is not mistake, but let's say you are rushing up. The second thing is you go in front of the lawyer, you sign it. I signed the bylaws of this. What is this bylaws?
We get into that.
What is this bylaws? What is the roof? What's
I'm
the
looking
fire?
at some now.
What's the fire code? What's this? The notary will not go into because he doesn't have time.
Yeah.
It's a process what you know beforehand. The third thing, did you meet with the people who are running this community?
No.
The so-called board members?
No.
And are they willing to meet with you? Because many times they don't want to meet with you, which is kind of a sign that maybe something should leak.
Yeah. This is also intriguing because I don't think many people have really thought about this in terms of property management. You think that sometimes value is not understood, and that blame and guilt are your sisters. So what do you mean by that? Because you've talked about that.
Yes, well, I have a very hefty and pleasant conversation when people are throwing anger on you. And even recently, the gentleman was arguing with me. You see, the situation is cold, and he says, no, call the council, the board members. They have to pay for that. And he started to argue. I said, sir, you're in the cold. Let me give you advice, which of course is free. Why don't you call the company, fix your issue, and then we're going to argue who is it? Is it the so-called community, or it's the owner responsibility?
Right.
Because you're in the cold, I feel bad. He was thankful that I called him several times, but are you willing really to wait or to make initiative and then you claim this money back?
You talk about choosing or living among people is an art.
Yes.
So, that's a very powerful statement.
Yes.
Living among people is an art. And then why do you say that? And that choosing the proper community. And the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of times, Vladimir, it is not always in your power to maybe choose the right community. So what do you do? I know. What does one do?
It's a complex process, as I said, as I mentioned, some of the 3 beneficiaries, meeting with people. Actually, you have to meet with your future neighbors. Or you have to sit in the car maybe 1-2 days and see what kind of people are going. Because if you rush up again, we have very busy neighborhood, but maybe sacrifice your TV time in the evening and the meeting with more people. That's the only thing. The proper question is, what's the plans? What's the future plans? How other people are? You can just hear how they communicate between themselves. It makes you think, yes, it's an art. And it takes a lot of ups and downs. Nothing is perfect. However, at least you can make so far to be prepared, especially when you take care about your family.
Right. Do you feel, because one of the things I do know that it is not always possible to be able to choose your community here in the United States. And I'm sure you're well aware that we have pockets of ghettos and different areas where people are there because it's affordable, because that's all they can afford. And they don't have a choice in the community that they live in. But I'm always believing in the constant good of people and that they inherit in people, there is goodness. What do you say that people can do that might not be able to be in control? Can they do something to change that community?
Yes, if they contribute, if they don't shut down, if they don't give up. I think the great speaker Les Brown says that we should never give up. We should always move forward. He says actually very brilliantly one thing, that the moment you stop fighting for what you want, that is what you don't want going to come back. That's a motivation for you. Yes, if you don't have the money, then okay, what you can do. Let's take a historical example of United States of America, the Mayflower ship, when they come, the first godfathers, which you have Thanksgiving Day. Did they give up?
1612.
Yeah. Did they give up? They come with a different culture here. They come from, they didn't have the money. It's not what about the guy is coming with an arrow to kill you, and you have to find a way to communicate with him. They didn't study this in school or in England, so that's the way they can do. Choose the right path, choose the connection with the people, and contributing with them. Yes, you don't have a choice to go out, as you said, to choose better.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm really glad that we had a chance to talk about this today, because it sort of sets the backdrop what we're going to talk about next week when I have you back on the show. Because I want to talk about how did you come up with the book, My Home is My Fortress, and a serious discussion on preserving my community. And I want to thank you for being on the show today. This has been great. I mean, very illuminating. And I could say a lot more, but we're going to really get into it more in depth, and a little bit about you, Vladimir, and what are your future goals as you see it in this work that you're doing to help so many people. So I want to thank you for tuning in today to the Transformation for Success show, our financial wellness channel. We want you to stay tuned for next week's show with my guest, Mr. Vladimir Hristov. So stay tuned. This is Dr. Barbara Young, and you can write me at info@transformationforsuccess.net. No, .com. I always say .net, but it's .com. So anyway, I make mistakes too. All right, so this is your charming Dr. Barbara Young, wishing you a great week, and I'll see you next week. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.